For us here in Iowa, there's a blizzard. I don't know if there's a blizzard out where you're at, but flying back from CES was a little scary because it was super windy. There was a lot of turbulence, but we made through it. And there was even a point where when I landed, my wife was like, "You might need to check into a hotel because the roads are not advised to go on to get about 30 minutes from where the airport is to my house." But I made it home safe. It looked like the roads were clear, so I took a chance. In tonight's episode, what I wanted to talk about is kind of recap the enjoyment that I had from CES, but also there was something missing at CES, and I want to talk about that. I think the answer to what I want to talk about may surprise you. Before we dive in, let's kind of recap, just kind of go through all the enjoyable times that I had. Now, I wasn't able to capture everything that was going on or put together a slide presentation. I'm sure 19K Fox is going to have a fantastic show after mine. I'm sure it's going to be much more informative like it always is. But from my perspective, I can kind of show you some of the exciting things that were going on and, kind of give you a glimpse of what that world was like. So when we started out, we had 19K Fox, the three of us. We went and grabbed some beer, but once we got into CES, one of the first stops along the way where we were going was the My Arcade. So I got to see firsthand for the first time this My Arcade unit. It's not for everybody. It's not for me. If you enjoy this and love it, that's great. But every single time I've ever purchased a My Arcade product, I've always been disappointed. Again, that's just me. And it could be that some people are like, look, they're not meant to be perfection, and I get that. But seeing this thing in person, the screen's not very clean, basically, it's not practical for me. I would just always be annoyed by this particular machine. But I got to see a highlight we did of some of the new products that were coming out, and I scared 19K Fox. So some of these products, they look okay. We'll have to see what they, I'll be following different reviews to see if that's something that, something that people think are nice. What's the quality of the screen of the newer units? How's the sticks, the buttons, all that jazz, So they had Tetris, they had Pole Position. I think they had a very nice booth at CES. I think they spent a lot of money, filling out, having a pretty large display. Not everyone gets a big booth like that. We went to a lot of small little places and, places that can't afford something so large. So then, next stop, we went to CERN, and they had a very kind of large presence there. They had, 5 or 6 Jaws machines on the other side. They had Foo Fighters, Avengers. I'm trying to think. Did they even have... I'm trying to think. Is there anything that wasn't represented? I'm not sure if they had a James Bond there. Anyway, so first impressions of Jaws. It's all right. It's not the best machine that they've ever come out with, but I think it's on par with some of their higher-end machines. Here's the thing with Stern. All their newer machines, ever since basically Godzilla. So Godzilla was great, but everything that's come out after that, I think, in my opinion, is post-pandemic stuff. Like, I think because Godzilla came out, they left a lot of money on the table because of supply chain issues. There was like an entire year that they couldn't release a machine for Godzilla, and I wonder how much sales they lost. So I think they really trimmed down what they're going to put in machines because of that. This thing was cool. This mannequin that was there. It's owned by, I want to say his name was Chris. He's a bodyguard. And so he owns the largest collection of any Jaws memorabilia out there. Cool thing, that little shooter rod you see there with the barrel, he has an original barrel prop that was used in the movie itself. And so he let Stern have access to all that stuff. And what they did was recreated all the barrels that are inside the machine. There's like a couple that are in the machine. Like on the Premium, I think there's at least 2, and even on the Pro, there's 1. And then if you get that custom shooter rod, which they will sell separately, that's casted from the movie prop. And then one of the coolest things about this trip was we just had fun. If you guys were following us in on shorts. I was just like, let's make shorts. Let's have a lot of fun. There was a lot of joking going around, making content that was just silly. I hope you guys enjoyed it and kind of saw we're trying to be humorous and trying to have fun. Some of this stuff was really scary. Some of the stuff was really beautiful. So there was a lot of autonomous vehicles that were used for farming. In the automobile section, kind of in this agriculture section, all of that was just straight up scary because they were like, we're using AI and these machines are super powerful. And I'm like, okay, is this what's going to take over the world and kill us all? But then there was some innovative stuff, like they were showing off this car that has all this extra mobility. It has wheels in the back that, the whole thing can turn on a dime and do 360s. So some of those presentations caused you to stop. And then you go along and then you see more Skynet stuff, things that look really scary. They're unmanned and just completely remote and autonomous. And you're like, great, that's awesome. No, I'm obviously joking here, but it was amazing to see some of these designs that these companies are coming up with. This kind of gives you an idea of the future of, what humanity could be using. And some of this stuff comes and goes, right? Some of these products never make it to the market. This was kind of cool. This entire car this was BOE. So some of the same company that builds the monitors that we love in our arcade 1-up cabinets are making these 40-inch long dashboards, and they're selling it to TV manufacturers, or car manufacturers, I'm sorry. And it wasn't very practical. The person in the driver's seat has this big steering wheel in the way, but it was a fun demo. Then we got to see that this was this company recycles metals, and so they had like this entire you could go on a race car simulator, and this was a roller coaster simulator that B went on, and I got to film him do that. Godzilla VR, fantastic. When this comes to, they've already sold like 400 or 600 of these, so they should be showing up in your arcades in the next couple months. Gotta check that out. The Godzilla VR. It's fully immersive. The VR technology is great. It's some of the best I've ever seen. The way that they're connecting. I'm going to turn the slideshow off for a second so I can describe the Godzilla VR. That might be the highlight of anything that I saw there. So the idea that you have this VR headset on, right? And then you're holding on to like these machine guns or whatever. But you can feel all, everything that you're moving around, and that's what you can see in the game. And the fact that they connected those dots between the VR world and the physical world, and the entire thing is moving around. I want to say it was like, did they say $50,000 for that one machine? And they were kind of rattling off some prices, like their previous Jurassic Park was like $20,000 or so. So this VR Godzilla for owners and operators of arcades is much more expensive, but it was, it may have been the best raw thrills thing I've ever seen. Like, I want to go back there again. I want to bring my friends over. Like, you have to play Godzilla. It blows away Halo, Jurassic Park, any of those like immersive games that typically have screens in front of you. The VR, top notch. And the level that we tried out, Godzilla just is gigantic in front of you, and you feel just lost in this world, and you got to shoot. And it still has like the same style of arcade, like your Jurassic Park, where all of a sudden the scene will freeze and it'll show these targets. It's like, hurry up and hit those targets. And the level of difficulty was there. I just saw something. Let's see if I can back up and kind of go through some of the things that I just found interesting. So, Monsters, you remember Eddie Munster? So we went to, I'm kind of going all over the place, but I hope that's all right. We went to the Pinball Hall of Fame. Horrible experience. I do not recommend going there. If you like pinball, you're gonna cry. Too many machines. Like they did this whole Kickstarter where they were trying to give us money and like we're gonna make things better and survive. And they must not be doing very well because a lot of the machines were broken down. The machines that did work, there was something wrong with every machine. But maybe I don't know how to run a business. Maybe they don't know how to run a business. I don't know. It's probably difficult trying to keep up 380 some pinball machines. And And then I think B is going to take an entire video on it. Like, the people there were straight up mean. Like, there was these kids, they were just having a good time. I don't think they were, like, doing anything crazy, and they kept on telling them they have to be quiet, use their inside voices. It was like, what are you doing? This is a freaking arcade. It's loud already. Like, everyone had to whisper. Like, what is going on with that? Like, who wants to go to a place and have a good time with your kids and kind of let your kids, you know, I'm not saying run up to a machine and punch it or something. Like, no kid was doing that. But you had to be, like, delicate. And they say, like, it's part museum. Come on. There's quarters everywhere. Library arcade. Exactly, Paul. Yeah. Okay, I won't say anything more about it. Kongs, everyone go check out Kongs. He'll elaborate it a lot more on it. It's going to make a whole show about it tonight. So definitely go check that out. He'll give you all the details, because what I will tell you, Kongs was pissed. Now, Kong's got this, he's got a beautiful heart. If you get to know Kong, like, he loves children. He loves family, right? And so he's sitting here. What he's focused on is, like, that mother was mistreated. The way in front of her kids, the way this guy was talking down to her in front of her kids. It's, like, unacceptable. And he kept on saying, like, I'm not their father, but you're their mother. And it's like, shut up, dude. Walk away. Go away. Do not say this stuff in front of the children. You're undermining their mother, right? Like, go away. Go away. So, yeah, that was a moment. It was definitely a moment. I think you guys would feel the same. You go in there, you're trying to have fun, and all of a sudden there's, like, this disruption, you know? Anyway, so back to the exciting thing. Monsters is a great game. That game at Pinball Hall of Fame ran well. A lot of the shots were a lot of fun. Went into a couple modes. It was pretty exciting. The game felt long. It wasn't like a ball drain or anything like that. I think I played for, like, I want to say 10 minutes on a single credit. I was like, wow. And I don't have a lot of time on this game. I think I played it a while back, but I haven't played it for years. And so that was kind of one of the highlights of Pinball Hall of Fame was Monsters. And I don't think I took a picture of it, but man, I'm really falling in love with the Star Trek from Stern that came out in, like, 2016. You know, the one that's, you know, it's based on the newer movie. Game is awesome. Game is awesome. Anyway, so that was kind of that was it. Won't go too deeper into it because much more of the excitement that we have, it was just the highlights, right? I could go on for an entire show talking about all the details of the things that we saw, but I wanted to highlight the things that, you know, I captured on camera, which I was trying to enjoy the moment. If you guys know, like, when I go to these trips, a lot of people are upset that I don't make more content, and I just kind of want to live the moment. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm a bad YouTuber. That's what it is. So YouTubers capture everything and edit everything and then show their audience, their fans, everything they possibly can, and typically edit it down to kind of have that Instagram moment to be like, oh, my life is so amazing. I'm just like, oh, whatever. Take some video and I'll show you some things, you know? We all have families, wild lives. Some people have the ability to edit much more of their life and show it to you, and for a while, what you get is what you get. I don't have all the time in the world to be able to make a ton of content. But although this year I'm planning on, while I'm home, and some of the projects that I want to work on, I'm going to try to document them and share those with you. So anyway, thank you guys that are in the chat, and I'd love to hang out with you, and let's talk. There was one thing that was missing from CES, and it's something that I haven't talked about in a while. I think I got a beer over here. Let me go grab it real quick. Quality over quantity, Justin. Okay. Well, what if I don't have quality or quantity? That's pretty horrible. Anyway, so let's turn this into a chillin' chat. And so, Arcade 1-Up was not at CES. And so I want to talk about that for a little bit. I want to talk about why I think they weren't at CES. And there's a couple of people that have reached out to me recently And the questions that they're asking me about Arcade 1-Up makes me feel like something needs to be said. I don't watch every single content creator that's out there that covers Arcade 1-Up. So it's possible that other streams have talked about this, other videos have talked about it. But the fact that a handful of people were reaching out to me on this topic made me think maybe this isn't a well-known thing, or just something that not everyone subscribes to or believes in. But here's what I'm thinking. A lot of the people in these live streams, one of the most interesting content that they enjoy talking about, and I've done tons of content like this, is what do you think Arcade 1-Up is coming out with next? Everyone's so excited about next, and it made me think about that all at CES. CES is a time where you get to see the innovations of these companies, and you get to see like what they're thinking about, and you kind of see these trends of what's coming next. You walk down this hall at CES, and you can see all these years, for the last 100 years, what products have come out at CES, and you can see, in the early 90s, Sony came out with the mini disc system, but they didn't really take off. CD was more popular, and then DVDs and MP3s came in, so that product didn't become a consumer product that everyone had. It didn't become ubiquitous. It was just kind of a small market. And so some things are fads, some things come and go, but when Arcade 1-Up is in this space right now, why weren't they at CES? And the other question is, what is Arcade 1-Up going to come out in 2024? And then, what can we as a community talk about what products that we think we would wish Arcade 1-Up would come out with? So I'm going to try to frame in the configurations for this conversation. And here's what I'm thinking. They were not at CES because they have no new products that they're going to come out with in 2024. There's nothing innovative that they're doing. The CEO that was once the founder and CEO of the company is no longer there. We know this, right? Scott Baccarat doesn't work for Arcade 1-Up anymore. His LinkedIn has been updated to show that he stopped working at Arcade 1-Up, I think September 2023. John D., Senior Vice President, also doesn't work there anymore. I heard from someone else, but I don't know if this is true. ThinkUp, who designed Arcade 1-Up products and was on contract to design every single new Arcade 1-Up product that would come out. New products. My understanding is they're not a part of Arcade 1-Up anymore. So what remains? What remains is a very small group of people that are trying to keep the company alive, producing products based on the license and the capabilities that they have with that smaller team. Which I believe means zero new innovations, zero new titles, zero new products like Pro or another pinball machine, like a virtual pinball machine. Nothing new. So if we want to speculate about what products that Arcade 1-Up is coming out in 2024, we could always wish that they're going to do amazing things. And I could be wrong. But I think this is how you would frame it. What have they already released? And can you combine some of those things together? I'll give you an example. Maybe we'll get a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles XL. It will be exactly the NBA Jam Shaq Edition, exact same shape, but with the Turtles artwork on it and whatever the latest PCB that they've released in that line for Turtles. Nothing newer, same game lineup. That's a possibility. But is it time? Is the market ready for another Turtles? Have they done Turtles in the past? And I'm telling you, their marketing team over the years has always thought about this. Like, should they release another Street Fighter? Well, the question is, how many Street Fighters have they sold in the past? That gives them an idea of how much saturation they've already put into the market. So they have that number, and how recent has it been since they released a Street Fighter, and can they get a big sales boom out of it? So that was just an example. They've done a 4-player NBA Jam XL already, so it's possible it's just a reconfiguration because it doesn't involve any new innovation. There's no new emulator. They basically, all they have to do is work with someone at a design company to get the artwork to fit in the Excel package. And so it's literally like take the Excel CAD file and zoom out the picture and get it to wrap and then send it to the manufacturer, and that's it. They're like, same PCB, same 19-inch as the Shack Jam. Maybe it's BOE now. Hopefully. And then that's what we'll get. So I've given you an example of reconfiguring something that's already existed from Arcade 1-Up that could be exciting. So I'd love to hear those in the chat to give their thoughts based on those parameters. You can't say Robotron. They've never done a Robotron. So that's it. It's like, nope, that's innovative. That means they have to work with Roth Rails. That means Roth Rails got to flip the bill for all the hardware costs of the PCB design. Well, they could use existing PCBs, but the software, the emulator, the package, that costs money. It's not for free. You got to hire a project manager to lead the project. You got to work with developers to package it up. It's not just snap your fingers and it's done. Okay, we got our first one that seems pretty interesting. Star Wars XL. This is perfect. They can do a Star Wars XL. Except, technically speaking, it would only work. Here's why I think Star Wars XL is possible. We know that they already designed a larger Star Wars machine when it comes to the mold, the shape of the machine. We saw that leaked years ago. So I think that time and investment was spent while the company had the money. We know they can do an HS5 style XL or Pro. Those pictures were leaked as well. So a Street Fighter XL is possible. Basically looks like the Street Fighter Deluxe HS5 that they already released. That same mold or CAD or design has been seen on the internet prior to them, letting go Scott and John. So it's possible. Star Wars, they've released 2, though. So they released the original, and then they released kind of this remake, this re-release. And my understanding is some of that was due to they did have existing parts of the original Star Wars, but they didn't have all the parts. And they needed to make some things new from the manufacturer. And so they got new artwork on there. They said, let's kind of go with a slightly different design so we can diversify. So they don't have any of that going on to kind of save money. Like the manufacturer isn't sending on 1,000 spare parts for a Star Wars XL. But again, because they've done Star Wars from a PCB standpoint before, and then we've seen designs of a larger Star Wars. But have they fully designed an XL version of a Star Wars? Maybe. Console Fanboy, then again, they couldn't sell the Pac-Man XL at Costco, so never mind, disregard my Miss Pac-Man XL too. So earlier he was talking about a reskin of Pac-Man to like a Class 1981 or a Miss Pac-Man, but if they're already struggling with selling Costco, if we were to believe that rumor to be true, then that's a tough one. That's a tough one. So the things that we want, of course, like we were talking about, innovative, new, those are exciting things that people enjoy. Even in the pinball space. I was watching this video about virtual pinball, and it's like once someone comes out with a brand new virtual pinball game, they want a new one. They're like, they don't appreciate sometimes the years it took to build this particular virtual pinball machine. They're already just like asking for the next one. And that was an interesting comment from the guy that was developing virtual pinball. It was a video on this guy's thoughts. It's the same guy. I'm trying to think of his name. It's the guy that created the Jaws virtual pinball game. And he was comparing his designs to Stern's design. And he was like checking to see if Stern was basically going to rip him off. And they didn't. But it's kind of like maybe they should have, because his design was well thought through and probably a better game than Stern's version. But Stern went with something more unique. But anyway, we typically like things that are new. But if Costco is not able to sell that new thing, that's another one of their challenges. So Biggie D says the Street Fighter Pro. The only downside to a Pro of anything is they've only done one Pro, the Killer Instinct Pro, and it was unsuccessful. I don't think they're going to do a Pro because the other side of it is, I believe, this is my understanding or assumption, I guess you would say, that the current crew at Arcade 1-Up is not going to do anything risky. They're only going to make decisions that they have high likelihood of success. Because if they make a couple more mistakes, they'll burn a couple retailers, they'll burn the consumers, and it's over. A Street Fighter Pro, I think, is a risk. A Street Fighter XL is less of a risk. Based on the price, based on the manufacturing, the quality, even the perception to this community of what they're going to get out of a Street Fighter XL versus the Street Fighter Pro. That Pro, we demand super high quality. I don't think that's going to change. If they don't hit the mark, we're going to complain. We did for KI Pro. There was very few people that defended KI Pro as being perfect. Most people were like, it missed the mark. You can kind of miss the mark with an XL. You can be like, the buttons suck, but I only paid $5.99 for it, or I only paid $6.99 for it, and at least I got a big Street Fighter. I can always swap out those buttons. It only cost me $20. And so the perception of the XL is not a higher expectation. And I'm saying this because I'm nearly quoting David McIntosh. About a year ago, I recall David McIntosh saying that there's this Pro has a much higher expectation from the community, from the fans, than they were reaching for. They thought they were giving it everything, but when it was released, they didn't. And he said, so we're going to focus, and everything about what he was saying was, and his gestures and everything was describing like we're going to lean back on something that's less risky, less innovative, safe. So I think 2023, we had a lot of people talking about that concept. And what I'm afraid is, and what's my belief is in 2024, they're just doubling down on safe. This all could be a ruse. Maybe Arcade 1-Up in the next few weeks is going to blow us away. Like they purposely are trolling the community by planting all these different seeds. But some of the seeds I'm talking about was like, there was like a Facebook post that I read. Maybe you guys read it as well. I'm going to paraphrase. I don't have it in front of me, where this guy was basically saying he works for Best Buy. And he can tell you The Simpsons is what ruined the relationship with Best Buy. Because Walmart, or was it Best Buy or Walmart? I think it was Best Buy. They were ready to sell Simpsons at $520, but they had to like really cut down the price. And even when they lowered the price down, they still couldn't move it. And so finally they get that price point really low. They could kind of move it, but it's like a year later, it was still in stock. So you guys know what I'm talking about. You can go read the exact reference from one of the Facebook groups. I think it's the unofficial Facebook group where he posted that. But there's a lot of these different like little tidbits of information on the internet. You got some on Reddit, you got some on Facebook, you got some from Travis and some of the streams, you got some from Michael B. Like Michael B's latest video. He's told me that he doesn't have a lot of confidence in Arcade 1-Up coming out with anything new and innovative. And I think he's heard that from Travis. And then one of his latest videos where he was talking about will they come out with a Mortal Kombat XL, he kept on saying Deluxe instead of XL. And I think it's a Freudian slip from his subconscious. I think in his subconscious, he knows they're only going to come out with Deluxe, or he believes they're only going to come out with Deluxe, or Travis told him they're only going to come out with Deluxe. And so every single time he went to say XL, he kept on saying Deluxe. Now, did he say Deluxe? And I make that mistake all the time. You listen to my podcast, I'm sure there's all this horrible stuff that I say where I accidentally like say this word, and it's just, I'm just whatever. I'm like reading a chat while talking at the same time. And like I end up saying another word. And usually it's because there's 2 or 3 different points of context going on at the same time, and I grabbed the wrong word, but it's one of those words, or it's what I'm about to. It's the topic I'm about to move through to. But on this one with Michael B, again, he kept on saying deluxe. He had to correct himself, be like, I mean XL, and I was like, yeah, I think that's a sign. But here's the thing: a lot of this is speculation. I don't really know the full relationship that Travis has with Arcade One Up. I mean, is he a full-time employee? I think he still has his main job, right? Like he still works for this other company, but he just like helps out Arcade One Up on the side. You can call him an employee for that, or call him a shill, whatever you want to call him. I mean, you just give him a label. But my point is I don't know if he's necessarily like in all the calls, every single call with executives, planning out their exact like future. I think he's in some calls. And I know at least at my company, I've worked at different positions in the company where I'm like lower management. Now I'm kind of more in this middle management area where I'm not just running a team, but running multiple projects and multiple teams. And once I get access to like kind of calls that the VPs, SVPs are talking about, it's like different level of knowledge of what's coming into the future. So I don't know. It's probably like that at Arcade One Up as well, where you basically got to be on the board or you got to be an SVP to really know the entire roadmap. Maybe they're not fully transparent with even their marketing team. I don't know. Let's move on with the conversation. JG Perunik says their choices are Star Wars XL, TMNT XL, Street Fighter XL, Classa 81, Pac-Man XL, or Mortal Kombat XL. I think you nailed it. All of that makes a lot of sense. And I would put it in order of Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man, although there's that perception or belief that a lot of people in the community have, which I don't know is exactly true. It could be that the Pac-Mans at Costco didn't sell very well. The only counter that I have for that is it's possible that Pac-Man XL was planned to be kind of this golden quarter Christmas period sale, or November, Black Friday, whatever. There's like a sales window, and maybe they fulfilled those sales in most of their Costco's, and then at a certain period of time, they're like, okay, that marketing sales, I don't know, was it like in their newsletter or something like that? And so they were trying to get most of them sold during that period of time. And then we're observing it outside of that time. Outside that time, they started reducing the price. I mean, do we know anyone at Costco that actually knows, like, hey, we ordered 2,000 Pac-Man XLs and we sold 1,800. And then we lowered the price to like $300 to sell the last 200. Maybe that's the case. And then what gets on Facebook is those last 200 people going, oh man, I got it for like only $200-$300. It's amazing. And maybe that's, the minority case. I don't know. But do you know what I'm saying? It's like, do we have all the data? I don't have all the data. So we gotta, whenever there's like this concept or narrative or perception, you got to go, is it possible that it's what we're saying is not true? And even everything that I'm saying right now about my predictions for 2024, that they were not at CES, so they have nothing to show. They have nothing to innovate. All signs are pointing to that this year is going to be a repeat of 2023. Like, we're going to get deluxe re-releases of the same thing. And maybe they don't want to put it out there to the public on their website that here's the new lineup. It's just we're going to see Mortal Kombat's at Best Buy and not think anything of it. And it's just a new cost reduction version that looks exactly the same, but they figured out better ways to manufacture it at a lower price. Maybe it's their process that changed. Maybe it's their shipping process that changed. And then, it's still Pac-Man or whatever, Mortal Kombat Deluxe for $3.99 or $4.99. And we're like, when are they going to come out with something new? And technically they did. They just didn't tell us it was a version 2 of the Mortal Kombat Deluxe, which will have maybe slightly different model number. I don't know. Let's see. Jason says, logically, which doesn't often work for Arcade 1-Up, Mortal Kombat XL in spring, Street Fighter XL in July for EVO. We do know that their marketing does like to tie, the release of a product to an event when it makes sense. King says their business model failed miserably based on how almost all their products have been heavily discounted to move them. I got steep discounts on my 4 units. And this is interesting because just like I was talking about earlier, and this is something that Arcade One Up, I remember John D saying about 2 years ago, somewhere around there, and it was this concept that when we see deep discounts, they have made money on it. Like they've already made most of their money off of selling their products. So we're just seeing a discount on their, final, what am I trying to say? The remaining stock. There you go. We're just seeing a deep discount on their remaining stock that they want to blow through because the company is about to purchase another set of units with a newer title that typically gets like an influx of sales whenever they got something new and different. And so companies like Costco, Walmart will, go ahead and liquidate and then buy the new thing because they get back a little bit of money on the remaining stock. And then they get some more money right away because the new product hopefully will sell well. But for sure, you are right in the sense of we have heard from people in the community report that they work at Costco or they work at Best Buy, and some information kind of leaks onto the forums that some of their cabinets like The Simpsons or Blitz or Pac-Man XL has also been talked about. The retailers overbought and could not move them. The desire for people to buy them was just not there. They marketed them wrong. They did something wrong. It just didn't work. So they had to liquidate, and they made very little money. And I think that happened, and that's why Scott Packrat and John D aren't there anymore. I don't know if it's mistakes that they made or more just like the company can no longer support an E-suite of presidents or people that are paid that much. Even look, David McIntosh's title changed. He used to be, what was he? A vice president of marketing or director of marketing? Now he's head of. And I don't really know their hierarchy for their term, but Cyrus being promoted to the exact title that John D has, the senior vice president of licensing. I think there's a little bit more to that title. That's interesting thing for. I don't want to sound like an ageist, but it's such a younger person in the in his career to have the same title as someone who has been in the business for a very long time, who worked for Sony, who worked for Sega. You can say what you want about John, but he has a really thick, long resume of producing products for very large companies, and knows a lot of people in the industry and makes a lot of deals and finalized basically every license you could think of and held them at Arcade One Up except for Nintendo. And then someone who was hired, no offense, Cyrus, but as an intern just a few years ago, and definitely surprised people at Arcade One Up as being a very innovative person, very exciting, motivated, and all these great traits. But then in a very short period of time, all of a sudden have like a senior vice president title of like a startup like Arcade One Up. I don't know him personally. Maybe he's amazing. Maybe he is absolutely amazing. I don't know. But I'm skeptical. Let's see. It was discounted to clear out Costco. Does that often on large items? I think they made what they were looking to make. Yeah, it could be. It could be that case. Let's see what else. Biggie D says, the best way to reduce development costs is to reuse the PCB. Same games list, absolutely. And focus on smaller, less expensive products like Countercade and Classic lines. Yeah, and I think that's true. So it could be the case that we'll see the Countercades. And keep in mind, like, it's possible that while they were rich with money, that's an assumption that they don't have it now. Maybe they're doing just fine. But the perception of, like them getting rid of the president and an SVP and founder of the company and ThinkUp, if that's true, if ThinkUp is no longer there. And then we also heard at one point that they can't build anything new because Roth Reels would have to flip the bill for some of the product development of something new, which I believe they did for some of their previous machines. Combine that together, it's like, have they already made a next generation Countercade or next generation Partycade? I don't know. Have they come up with a new design? Can they afford coming up with a new design? So if they come out with a countercade, will it be basically the two-player countercade that we saw already? Of course, they can swap in and out the marquee. There's a little bit of stuff they could do without a huge product development cost. But something that I was really hoping to see was one-player countercades of the multiplayer games. I think that'd be cool. So it's nice that you get an NBA Jam or Marvel vs. Capcom two-player countercade with 2 sticks, 2 sets of buttons. But that'd also be really cool with a less expensive one-player version where the stick's straight in the middle and you just got buttons right there. Maybe offset a little bit, of course, but focus on a first-player countercade. Maybe it's the same size in every other way. Maybe the deck isn't as wide, or meet in the middle, something like that, where it's almost like you have this little fight stick. And then if you have multiple players, I don't know, it would be really cool as an HDMI out, and then like a USB. So you technically could use it like, oh, I got this game, Marvel vs. Capcom 2, on a countercade, right? Of course, what would be amazing is it's also connected online. It has the same PCB. So it's like a way to like get Marvel vs. Capcom legit on your television, and you can plug USB controllers onto it. That would be, wishful thinking. That would be really cool. But within the limits of what we framed earlier, maybe it's just like, just a one-player version of Marvel vs. Capcom or something like that, or Turtles or NBA Jam. Let's see. $20. Okay. This better be a good super chat. Remember, you're on thin ice. They don't have the money to invest in R&D to make anything new. Hence why nothing new was announced at CES. Agree with that. They need the money to pay off their investors, which they can't do either. Hence why John and Scott left. I agree with everything except for it's over. We don't know. We don't know yet. It could be the case that, they got to pay off debt. They got to pay off this massive amount of debt. The way they're going to do it is just not invest any more money. Like, they have no money to invest on any new products. So they're just like, how do we just get those margins as high as possible? And that is, don't spend any product development money on anything new. You've already spent the money, and just make as much money off of the best ideas they can come up with that they can convince the community to buy, the random people to buy, the retailers to buy, reusing all existing stuff that they cobble together. It's like, can we do a Star Wars XL at a really low price with enough margin? Like, how do you set that up so we can get the highest amount of profit? This is a good question. Do you think Justin Wong still works for Arcade One Up? I hadn't thought about that. I recently saw on LinkedIn, I was kind of looking at LinkedIn, and I think he claims he does on his website or on the LinkedIn profile. But does he really? So let's go through that for a second. If they absolutely have no new products to QA, there's no new software, there's no new emulator, he was QA. And if they've like, we have no new products, there's no new PCBs. If I were a company that was failing, a company that had almost no money and needed to try to survive this little period of time, it's almost like this hibernation, if you will. This period of time where you got to pay off your debts, you can't innovate, you're just struggling. And then maybe you can sprout out afterwards. But our goal is just to survive this winter. And you have to reduce your cost, so you lay off. You have to. There's no other choice. There's just no money. You have to lay off your product development team. You have to lay off some E-Suite people. Would you lay off QA? You would if they had nothing to test. However, I was looking at LinkedIn and kind of looking at who has updated their LinkedIn, who hasn't. And their CTO of technology that does their online stuff still claims to work there. Their head of product, one of the product ladies, I think her name's Emily, she still looks like she works there. And Justin still looks like he works there. So there is some hope that they're doing something. But I don't know, are they updating firmware for the Infinity game board and they're making a ton of money off the Infinity game board, or updating and testing Casinocade? I don't know. But it's a good question. And I know there's a lot of other content creators that watch my content. Please look into it, man. Look into it. James, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Like, have you looked in, does Justin still work? I mean, literally right there, Garage Gamer, that's a great title for a video. Do you think Justin Wong still works for Arcade 1UP? Like, that's a great video name. Someone should get down and figure that out. Maybe reach out to him and be like, hey, do you still work there? But, yeah, Zero Redux says, Justin's LinkedIn still says present. Wait, what? I don't understand what that meant. Let's see. Just didn't know you were going live. You'll be joining Fox in 30 minutes, right? I don't think he reached out. I don't think he reached out. I think it's the solo show. I think it's a solo show. He didn't reach out to me with a link or anything like that. B will invite us all. I don't know. I don't beg to be on anyone's show. I just come on if they send me a link. If they send me a link and said, "Hey, do you have time?" And if I have time, I'll go on it. But Fox is a good friend of mine, but also I know he likes to monologue. He loves his monologue. He loves his. You guys all know that. Like, the dude is a really good, like, just straight up solo podcaster. So I definitely wouldn't want to interrupt any of that. Let's see. James says, yeah, he has said XL will be the only at wholesale clubs, which means Costco at this point. Yeah. Let's see. Arcade 1UP's problem is always price. Even at $2.99, it still needs to be a good game and has been a full feature to be worthwhile. There's not really any game that justify more than doubling the price. Yeah. Let's see what else we got. At Games will take up where Arcade 1UP left off. Yeah, if At Games isn't struggling with finances or anything like that, and they got a lot of products coming out, maybe they are in a position to do it. Imagine At Games Racing Cab with several racing games, including Turbo, Pole Position, Ridge Racer, Fast and Furious, etc. It's a nicer cab with better controls. Yeah, man. I'd be down. Anyone? Oh, here we go. Peter Griffin, he says, I bought my XL back Costco 3 months ago for $2.99. So Peter Griffin, if you don't know, Electric Drums, he screams because it's all in caps. It's all in caps. But he loves you. He loves everybody. And Peter Griffin, Electric Drums, what he wants to tell everyone is, why hasn't Arcade 1UP come out with a candy crane? Because he loves them candy cranes, right? They really need to come out with that. Maybe we'll get one. Ben says it's a pattern. If I was interested in Arcade 1UP unit, I would never pay retail price. Would wait for the discounted price. Yeah. A lot of those in the community do exactly that. They wait for the discounted price. Remember those days, guys? $50 Star Wars? Those were the days. Let's see. Widow says, I just hope Arcade 1UP get out the XL Star Wars, XL Tron, XL Tempest, XL Dragon's Lair before the year is over. That's an interesting lineup right there. Really, really good lineup. So imagine we could get an XL Star Wars, an XL Tron, an XL Tempest. Now, the XL Tempest, would it be an actual vertical? Straight up vertical. Just give me a vertical 19-inch screen, with only games from Atari that are vertical, which I think would only end up being a handful instead of 12 or so. Of course, Atari's going to screw it up. If Arcade 1UP was able to convince them to do a 19-inch monitor, they'd be like, yeah, but you got to throw in all the 2600 games too. Something dumb like that. I don't know. Atari's weird like that. Constant Fanboy says, why would Justin Wong still work with Arcade 1UP when John D took his Capcom relationships with him? Come on now. It's interesting, and I think the only reason Justin Wong works at Arcade 1UP wasn't that that was John D's deal, right? Didn't John D poach, I don't know if that's the right term, but he's the one who reached out to Justin Wong and was like, hey, he's a huge fan of Justin Wong's work, and he wanted to help Justin Wong have a job doing what he loves. And so to him, he felt like it was like win-win. Here's a guy that knows games, knows retro games really, really well. He can play them to the depth of, a tournament player. And so he could come in and add credibility to the company. I think that was something John D was hoping to do. And there's some mixed feelings about that. I know definitely there's some Justin Wong haters out there. I talked to him one-on-one on a couple live streams that we did. He seemed like a nice guy, but I've never broke bread with him or anything like that. I don't really know him as a person, but he seemed nice when I was talking to him. Well, there you go. Maybe he's been on. Is he really on vacation? Justin Wong has been on vacation for the last month. He won't be streaming again until the 20th. Maybe he's looking for a new job. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to say negative things about the dude, but that's speculation there for sure. Widow says the Outgames Racer cab would be amazing as long as it was an XL with the tin sign. You got me there. There you go. So Raptor Chef, he said he did pay full price, but that was because he won GameStop gift cards at work, paid for 4 cab. Wow, that was a really good deal, man. You got your job gave you some really good gift cards. Yeah, Jason says Atari can include the vertical games from the Stern Arcade Library purchase. Remember, that did happen. Atari did get Stern to sell off some of those games, and I think they fit really well in the Atari lineup. So I wonder how much that cost for that. Let's see. Anyway, so they have plenty to combine with their native vertical games. They can do both a vertical and horizontal cab for Atari. That would be cool. Yeah, Andy says I'm a huge Atari fan, but do a vertical. Yeah, that'd be good. Andy says Berserk isn't vertical though. We need Berserk. So I don't know. Maybe they were already working on it. See, that's the thing. When you go back to how quickly can Arcade 1-Up produce something? 2 months. We had heard that at some point if they'd had everything already finalized. But some of the machines they work on for 2 or 3 years. These are long product development cycles for some of those big machines. And I think they spent like 2 or more years on Blitz, and that's the one that really, really hurt them. They went really high with development cost, didn't necessarily hit the mark that a lot of people were hoping for, and they didn't reach those product development guidelines, or deadlines, I'm trying to say. The deadlines of Blitz needs to be fully done on the software side by this date. Unfortunately, they released it unfinished, like the game was still somewhat playable but didn't have online, and then they did software patches and those got delayed. So I think that really hurt them. But I wonder if also, I've been thinking about that, I thought about that a while back, like, why is it that Blitz did so poorly when us in the community, that there were those in the community that were really upset about how Blitz launched? Could any of that information make it to the average person that was buying Blitz from Costco and Best Buy? Did it? Do we? And this is an ongoing debate that we've been talking about for over 5 years of how much impact does this community have? And I remember talking to John D about that, and there was also this, like, even among Arcade 1-Up employees, there was debate. They would call us this, either whales or 1%ers. And so that term whale is typically, I think there's probably some whales in the audience here, where you're someone who buys a lot of product from them. So the average consumer buys 1 or 2 products. But then there's some of us that own 10, 15, 20 products. So we're this whale. And then there's people on Facebook or Reddit or YouTube, Twitter, that speak loudly against when they miss the mark. But do those people have reach to the people that only buy 1 cabinet or 2 cabinets? They're not whales, right? Like, this community is filled with a ton of whales, and the whales communicate the 1%ers or whatever. But according to the understanding that I've read many people talk about, is Blitz did really poorly on sales from Costco, and Costco decided to liquidate so quickly. And then everyone attributed that liquidation to because they didn't have online. But it never made sense because the type of reach that Arcade 1-Up needs to make, or Costco needs to make, I don't think is the type of person that would know or even care it does have online, or if online was performing badly. So why didn't they impulsively purchase it at Costco? So, I don't know. I thought about that a while, and the only conclusion I could come up with trying to wrestle all of that is I think they highly underestimated how much people remember Blitz. And so I think you can take a title like Pac-Man or Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat. You can put it in a Costco and people are like, yeah, I remember that game. I love it. I'm going to buy it. That is the ideal one machine that I will ever buy. And here I am impulsively purchasing it at Walmart or a Best Buy or Costco. But Blitz is like, even if they do remember it, they're like, that's not the game I want. That's not the one game I'm going to buy. And they're trying to tap into those customers that will just impulsively buy one machine and that's it. And Blitz just wasn't that. Simpsons wasn't that. And according to what I've heard from like what's publicly available in all the Facebook groups or Reddit, is this idea that people that work at Costco, Walmart, and Best Buy has sort of commented, and I don't know how much trust you need to put in those comments. Are they just trolls? But it's like the only thing that sells are the big ones. Pac-Man, Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter. You get lucky with some machines like Star Wars, because Star Wars is Star Wars. And maybe during the pandemic, it was just the perfect product. But now, 2024, what are we going to get? I'm sorry. Some of you are probably in the chat, man, this guy, he's angry or he's pessimistic. He doesn't have a positive attitude. It's not that I don't have a positive attitude. These are the things that I'm talking about with my friends. These are the same stories that we're worried about. And this is what I believe is going to happen in 2024, is that we're not going to have very many super exciting things. So to kind of wrap up the topic is CES was missing something. It was missing Arcade 1-Up. I'd gone to CES many times, a handful of times, starting in 2020, and one of the biggest attractions to CES 2020 was the new hobby that I had of Arcade 1-Up, and they had unveiled so many great things at E3 2019 that I wanted to see what they had in store. And the other thing that was missing was you. That's right, I'm talking to you. Those in the chat. There wasn't a moment at CES where we could go live. And it was an epic event. And remember that? CES, E3, people going live and having a good, enjoyable time. The phrase of we're going to bring CES to you. We're going to bring Comic-Con to you is something that I would try to repeat to my friends. Like, how do we do that? We talk about it. Like, how do we make this content? How do we make it feel like the people that are unable to go to CES feel like they're there? And the best I had was posting shorts about eating food. I'm sorry, folks. I'm sorry, fans. But that's life. That's life. I hope you enjoyed the content tonight. I'm not meaning it to be a downer by any means, but I had a good time. Fox and B are great people, and spending time with them at CES, I always felt safe. They're nice dudes. We ate at a lot of great places. We saw some things. That was a lot of fun. Good memories. Overall, CES this year, I'd give it a 9 out of 10. All right, guys.